Good morning, good evening, or good afternoon, everybody. We're back with another video. Obviously, I am recording this on Monday. I just posted the last video on Thursday, and is that a very small amount of time to have written an entire new paper? Yes, probably. I'm not going to be uploading weekly, usually. I just got really excited about the last video, and I have ADHD, so when I have a burst of energy, I take advantage of it. So, I'm going to be uploading bi-weekly. Just a heads up now. I don't really have any loyal subscribers who care that much, but I'm just taking on a few more projects coming up, and I want to be able to do everything I had planned this summer. Like I said in the previous video, I am a pre-law student, and because I'm fast tracking, I have to start studying for the LSAT. So, priorities. Unfortunately, you guys are secondary. Now that we have those little disclaimers out of the way, what's today's topic? Well, I'm sure you saw the title of the video. Today we are going to be discussing friends. You know, those little dudes you keep around because you don't really like being lonely. Okay, I want everyone out there to think about your circle of friends. And I want you to focus on their gender. Pronouns. Are you primarily friends with people of the same gender identity as you? Or do you have many friends of the opposite sex? Me personally, many, if not most, of my closest friends are men. And it's probably because of our shared affinity for women. Happy Pride Month. But it's still embarrassing to admit. Over the years, I've noticed that many heterosexual men and women are uncomfortable with the idea of their partner having friends of the opposite gender. And it's something I've seen less of as I've gotten older or since I've moved farther away. But I think definitely, at least in western Kansas, it is still very prevalent. And I think in a lot of conservative communities, you're going to find ideas like this. In today's video, we're going to be discussing the idea that your partner should not have friends of the opposite sex. And like I said, I don't think this is relevant to many, if not most, people on this channel. However, I do know people who would benefit from having this conversation. So, what's my claim? Male and female friendships can be incredibly powerful. Once they are accepted instead of frowned upon, we could see a shift in how women are treated by men. Let's talk! With it being Pride Month, I do plan on doing some videos regarding queerness soon. However, for this video, the topic will be discussed primarily through a heteronormative lens. I personally don't think this is as much of a problem in the queer community. Personally, I'm subscribed to that agenda. I haven't experienced it as much, and I don't think it's as relevant to this conversation. However, if you would like to see a video covering queerness and cross-sex friendships, let me know. I'd be happy to make it. I personally just, within my group of gay friends, I don't experience these issues as much. And I don't know why I keep choosing videos with a lack of research, but one study did mention that there isn't a lot of research on cross-sex friendships, specifically the avoidance of them, which is what we're going to be talking about today. But as always, my sources will be in the description, ranked by usage, with my primary sources being the first couple of links. So please go check them out. I found some very interesting things which you will find out about through this video. So go take a look. I think it goes without saying that the intention behind any friendship is incredibly important, whether that be same-sex or not. However, I want to be looking at how often the intentions of your friends are actually affecting your relationship. So, for this, I turn to the work of Susanna Rose from the University of Missouri. She begins by breaking down the homosocial norms within our society. She points out two main contributors to these norms: the encouragement of homosocial behaviors in a young boy's childhood, and the societal value of men versus women. Men obviously being of more value. Rose then goes on to bring up the research from Dr. Lippmann Blumen, and I'm sorry if I keep saying that wrong. I don't know why, but I'm struggling to say it. She makes the argument that men are more likely to be homosocial than women. Why? Well, she thinks it's because men don't need us for anything but paternity, fatherhood. They want babies. Jean Lippmann Blumen wrote about this in 1976, and personally, I think it's pretty disturbing. Men commonly find satisfaction from other men, intellectually, physically, politically, economically, occupationally, and socially. They even find their status and power validated through other men. Lippmann Blumen argues that women were not made sex objects by men, but rather forced to sexualize themselves to attract men and distract them from the other men. Let's just sit with that claim for a minute. Okay, men were not the ones who made women into sex objects, but rather we were forced to sexualize ourselves to distract men from other men. Do I personally agree with this claim? Honestly, not really. But history does reveal that there is an element of truth to this. It wasn't until 1974 that we could have bank accounts, mortgages, credit cards, without a male cosigner. We couldn't own land until 1900, and in 1939, Mississippi became the first state to say, actually, women aren't property. And unfortunately, I mean literal property. If a woman was hurt, or God forbid assaulted by a man that wasn't her husband, did she receive compensation? No. In fact, it was her husband that did. And why, might you ask, did her husband receive compensation? Because legally it was recognized as damage of his property. So throughout history, we are seeing the pattern of women not being able to function without a man in their life. And I don't mean they weren't capable of function, I mean they were not allowed to function without a man. And Lippmann Blumen is suggesting that men didn't even want to be with women. If this is really the case, then yes, it could be possible that we were forced to sexualize ourselves to distract men from other men. Do I think the sexualization of women derived purely from the need to survive? Well, no. I think it's a little more difficult than that. But do I think it could be part of the reason? I'm not totally rejecting the idea. Going back to Rose's research, her study actually seems to contend some of the claims from Lippmann Blumen, specifically the claim that men prefer homosocial friendships. Rose actually found that women preferred same-sex friendships at a higher rate than men, whereas men preferred cross-sex friendships. However, Rose also found that men initiated these friendships due to, you guessed it, sexual desire. This supports Lippmann Blumen's claim that men only interact with women when needing to reproduce or wanting to have sex. Rose also found that women initiated these friendships due to platonic intentions. They genuinely just want to be friends. In a way, these results aren't necessarily disproving Lippmann Blumen's theory. In fact, upon examining them, I found that they could possibly support the theory. They totally fit. Could it be possible that women preferred same-sex friendships because they felt sexualized in cross-sex ones? If men's intention with female friendships were usually sexual, does that not back Lippmann Blumen's theory that men usually connect with other men? And does that not back Lippmann Blumen's theory that men usually connect with other men and only view women as reproductive objects? All of this led my mind right back to objectification theory, which I spoke about in more depth in the previous video. Go check it out. In that video, we linked objectification theory to makeup. I think the fact that men's intentions behind befriending women were usually sexual kind of goes right back to the theory that all of our worth, all of our value, is derived simply from our body. Her research is literally showing that even in a friendship, many men are just viewing you as a sex object. All of this compiled in my mind, formulating my own questions regarding the effect of cross-sex friendships on romantic relationships. Does this mean that women can't trust their boyfriends with their female friends? And oh my god, does this mean that women can't trust their boyfriends with their male friends? Should women even be dating men this untrustworthy? How is she supposed to know that he's this untrustworthy until something happens? I'm not even kidding. My mind was and is literally spinning. As disappointed as I am by the research, I still know that there are many, many benefits to having friends of the opposite gender. This portion of the video is primarily going to be personal experience because not only did I find little to no research on the benefits, but I also think that the benefits are highly personal and different for everyone. For men, having female friends gives them the opportunity to see women in an entirely different light, as long as you are not going into these friendships with sexual intentions. I think aside from family members, a majority of the women in a man's life are going to be sexualized, and I think if they go into these friendships not doing that and truly just trying to connect with another human being on a new level, their view on women is going to completely change. I can promise you that most of your female friends, if they actually just want to be friends, are not going to put up with you sexualizing them. And I think for a lot of men, that can be incredibly groundbreaking. No, not every woman wants to crack you. For women, it gives you the opportunity to have a relationship with a man without power imbalances. I think even when dating men, you are going to experience many, many power imbalances within your relationship. Whether or not he's a feminist, oftentimes you'll see these power imbalances in places like the bedroom. In fact, I watched a really good video on patriarchal sex and how it's actually damaging women's view on sexual relations with men. Having a male friend that you are not having sexual intercourse with really does change your idea on how a man should treat you. Me personally, I am not respected by any of the men in my family. So this was a huge eye-opener for me, and personally, I don't think I've experienced any power imbalances within my male friendships. I think these friendships can allow connections in a way that you won't connect with your partner or even friends of the same sex. Now, I'm not saying that your same-sex friends aren't important. I don't know where I would be without my female friends in my life. Shout out Hannah, my freaking roommate. I personally think that they are equally important. However, I think that there are connections that you are going to form with men that you won't form in female friendships. For example, my male friends have helped me build up my confidence without even knowing they did. They unlock masculine parts of myself that I wasn't even aware I really had, and I've come to love them. I just think that men naturally have a higher ego than women, and being around them, unfortunately, builds your own ego, which women, we need to be doing. It's almost like we give each other a chance to unlock those parts of ourselves that sometimes we struggle to unlock with the same gender. And this is speaking as a queer woman, but I feel like there are a lot of things that I can't go to my female friends about because they just simply don't understand it. So I think, especially in a homosexual lens, I think we need friends of the opposite gender. And finally, my corniest point, I personally believe that I have been able to heal many parts of myself through my male friends. I have one father and two brothers, my father, who is always working and frequently annoyed when I'm around. My older brother does not respect me in any way whatsoever. He does not treat me like a human when I'm around, and I'm not even exaggerating. My younger brother is much better than the other two, but sometimes we still struggle to connect on an emotional basis. In a sense, I've always felt like I've been a nuisance to the men in my family. And since middle school, I've subconsciously carried these emotions with me. It wasn't actually until writing this video that I realized how much of it I was still carrying. My guy friends have given me a chance to heal from this in a healthy way. Instead of coping by daddy issues or seeking validation from men in an unhealthy way, I've healed simply by them treating me like a human. My queerness is something that has not and will not ever be accepted by my family, and it's just something I've come to know is true. It's really disappointing, but it's just a part of my life. I've also come to find that invalidating one part of one's identity invalidates all of it. When I'm speaking about my emotions or opinions, my family is constantly ridiculing me, saying I'm reading too much into it. In fact, I know that I can talk about all of these issues and not be worried that they're going to see this, because they have already told me that they won't watch my videos because they go against their views. The first time I was ever able to form a deep connection with a heterosexual man was when I got to college, which is crazy. Who experiences that for the first time at 18 years old? Anyways, they have totally changed my perspective on myself. Like I said, they've already helped me build up my self-esteem. They help unlock parts of me that I wasn't aware I had, and they validate my human experience. They don't act like they're smarter or better than me because they're men. They treat me as an equal to them, which unfortunately I had no idea I needed to experience. Seriously, being treated as an equal to a man totally changes your perspective on everything. I don't allow men to talk to me as if I'm stupid anymore. When I came home, I found myself putting my foot down when my brothers would say something to me. Because if two men I just met this past year can treat me correctly, then so can the men that have been in my life for 18 years. Like I said, I have two brothers and a father who don't ever value my opinions, morals, hardly acknowledge my presence. My friends listen to me. In fact, we listen to each other. I want to give one example. My family is, as you can guess, very religion. Yes, they are Christian. How did you know? One common theme I found through deconstructing my Christianity is that we get into fights all of the time. However, one of my best friends, one of whom I've been speaking about throughout this video, is a Christian man. And instead of fighting with me, we have these conversations, and we both learn and gain new perspectives from them. I do want to bring up the argument that you could heal in the same way from a romantic relationship with a man. However, I just don't think you're going to experience the same things. I think you can still offer healing, but I do think that there are things I have healed from with my friendships that I could not have done through a romantic relationship. I can't lie to you, I went into the creation of this video wanting to prove that male-female friendships were always beneficial. But I now think that, like most things, it depends. I don't think every person of the opposite gender always has pure intentions. I just don't. I think everyone should strive to find someone of the opposite gender to connect with in a platonic way, because it can be great. It can offer many things. These friendships can offer new levels of emotional closeness, they can be healing, and they do challenge heteronormativity and patriarchy. Women, I encourage you to find close male friends, if possible. But it's totally okay to be leery of their intentions. And men, a lot of you need a perspective change regarding female friendships. they can be a huge benefit to your life if you let them be more than sex. So, do I think that cross-sex friendships should endanger a relationship? My answer to this being usually no. You should be with a partner who trusts you enough to allow you to make decisions regarding friends. They should trust that you can tell if a person has poor intentions when befriending you. And if you don't trust them with their cross-sex friends, or they are giving you reasons not to trust them with their cross-sex friends, then they might not be somebody you want to date. I think there are situations in which there is a friend of the opposite sex, and unfortunately there is cheating involved. I do think that these situations are very common. I just don't think that this should mean cross-sex friendships always result in cheating. If you crash a car once, does that mean every time you get in a car after that, you're going to crash again? Obviously not. Life is much more nuanced than the black and white ideas we're given. So, unless your partner is intentionally avoiding introducing you and their friend of the opposite gender, I don't think it should be the cause of any breakup. That's all I have for this video. I hope it wasn't too touchy of a subject. I think most people will agree with this. And once again, if you thought it was stupid, I'm sorry. It's only my second video, they'll get better. If you thought it was educational, great. And no matter which opinions you have, let me know down below because I love reading comments, especially when they're telling me I'm wrong. I do enjoy that. I enjoy a new perspective. So if you think I'm an absolute nutcase and men and women should not be friends if they have a partner already, let me know. I would love to hear other people's perspectives and experiences because as a queer woman, I'm not going to have the same ones as most of you guys. That being said, I hope everyone has an awesome Pride Month. I hope to do a couple videos over queerness here soon, so be looking out for those. And like I said, bi-weekly upload schedule starting not next week, but the week after. And thank you guys for watching. I hope you learned something. I never know how to close videos, so I'm just gonna sit here and stare. I'm just kidding, it's awkward. Bye.